In this video, we're going to be rebuilding the nastiest black painted forks that came on our KZ400. Somebody had taken them and painted the whole bike black, and the front forks were no exception. And underneath these black forks, because this is the cheaper version of the KZ400, it has silver paint. We're going to be removing that paint. We're going to be making these fork tubes look brand new and polished and do a nice job of it. So we'll get to it and we'll get all that paint stripped off and go from there. And like everything else on this motorcycle, the forks are covered with ugly, nasty black paint. So I've taken a little bit of the citrus strip, which seems to work fairly well, and it doesn't seem to have very many bad fumes. But put that on there, and it's starting to eat away at that nasty black paint. So we'll let that cook for a little while, and then I can degrease this whole mess. Get all the nastiness off of this before we start working on the forks. Get some new seals and dust covers on there. Get these forks all cleaned up and polished. Well, we have pretty much gotten all the paint covered. It's bubbled up very nicely using that citrus strip. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to take these outside and pressure wash them. I got a couple more minutes to let that bubble up, but it's doing a pretty darn decent job. These forks have been covered with nasty, nasty paint, and it looks like somebody may have painted them silver and then painted them black. So we'll deal with all that, and we will get these things looking nice and brand new. And next thing we'll do is go on ahead and put in some new fork seals and get them ready so we can start putting this bike back together. And let's hose these things off. See how it does. We'll grab a little super clean, and we'll just give this stuff a bath here, get off all the extra grease and crud. And we did pretty good. The forks are painted silver. It looks like it from the factory, so we'll probably be getting rid of all that, but at least the black paint is gone. And all the nasty crud is off of it. So, and we are done. And now we can go on ahead and start breaking things down, getting these forks cleaned up so we can put new seals in them. But it didn't do a terrible job. They're not the prettiest in the world, that's for sure. They've taken on some heavy damage. But when we're done, they'll look nice. triple clamp is semi-clean, but it's nasty. It still has black paint all over it. Boy, everything on this thing is just so rusted up and nasty and in terrible shape. But we will prevail. The nasty, the stuff that's coming out is like grease, black, ugly grease. It cleared up fairly well now. It's one of them. See if anything comes out of this other one. There's nothing in it, just a little bit of... Oh, here comes the ugly stuff. Now we can let those drain for a little bit. Well, now that most of the oil has been drained out of this, we'll never get it all out. We will go on ahead and put the drain plugs in finger tight, just so it's not leaking all over the place. And these are 6x10 thread, 10mm heads on them. And we can then start with the disassembly of these. So, get things in position, and I'll be right back. Okay, so the first step that we need to take apart these forks is, in this particular type of fork, it doesn't have a regular cap. So if you're just removing your forks from the bike, you remove the cap and slide these out. We didn't need to do that on these because there is no cap. This just pushes in, and there's a clip and it'll pop out, and that will be how we fill the forks. But for now, what we need to do is get the lower fork tubes off, and we do that by taking a 6mm Allen, and in this case a 6mm, and we'll use an impact wrench and we'll pop those loose, and this fork leg will be able to slide right off. Hopefully. So I'm using a 3/8 drive butterfly impact. Now, this may not work. We may have to just adapt up to a 1/2 inch and really crank on it. But if you have a 1/2 inch, just use your 6mm, and we'll see how this goes. In this case, yeah, it's already loose. So now the fork leg can come apart. I'm going to move this. Excuse me. I'm going to put the oil over here just in case some more pops out. But here we go. There's fork oil and our damper rod. Not too hard to deal with, just a little messy. Okay, get that out of the way, and we'll do another one. And that was not very tight, and that's not typical. Somebody has been in here messing around. Now, inside here this is where the bottom of the damper tube goes, and it's got a fairly big piece on the bottom, so it doesn't want to come by the seal. But it is just nasty in there in this particular fork. So we will be cleaning all that out and getting these fork seals out of here. It's just nasty in here. This is a truly nasty set of forks. Okay, that's one. Let's see if we can get another one. And so you can see it. It comes right out. So these were fairly easy to get out. again. Forks are, we let them drain fairly well, so we don't have too much of a mess. It still is nasty, but it's not terrible. Okay, and we'll be cleaning these up. We'll be getting rid of any rust that's here. We'll get these smoothed out, and so they will be like brand new when we put them all back together. The next thing we need to do is, now that we've got the forks fairly well cleaned up, we got the fork tubes out, we now need to, there's a ring inside of here that needs to come out that holds the fork seal down, and once we get those out, we can then pry the fork seal out. You don't really need special tools to do it. You just need, I use a big screwdriver, and we'll just go ahead and do it. Kind of some sort of rag on your vise so you're getting oil all over everything. And we will go on ahead and we're going to pry out this little clip, and it just comes out. It's really not hard. And then I have this giant size snap-on screwdriver that I actually bought to do this type of work. It makes life a little easier. Take a rag to protect your fork tube, and we'll give it a pry. Get in underneath it, and out it comes. And it's just that simple. And this is just goopy. Look at the black goo inside this thing. Eek. Okay, let's take a look inside. And it is just really, really, really nasty. Okay. Do another one. Same thing. Get this clip out of here. At least they're oily and not rusty. Put a rag to protect the fork. And out it comes. Okay, this thing is just evil nasty. And let's just wipe out some of the crustoleum here, see what it looks like. These forks need cleaning, so we'll do a better job. I have to work them over anyway because I need to get rid of all that ugly paint. But that's how you get the fork seals out. I mean, not a lot of work, it's not all that hard. You can actually do this on the bike if you want. You just, as long as you can go on ahead and get the bolts out the bottom, and it will come out. Let's get this guy out, and like I say, it is just, this thing is just nasty. Look at the crud. It's like this nasty tar. Well, not tar, but just icky poo. But anyway, we'll get these all cleaned out, and when we come back, we'll be installing the fork seals after a good cleaning, and we'll go from there. Okay, we can do a little bit of cleanup here, and all that we're going to do is just take a paper towel, wad it up, and I'm going to use a big screwdriver, and I'm just going to take it and gently turn that paper towel inside of there and let it do its thing. And then what we'll do is we'll take another long screwdriver and we'll just push that paper towel back out. And it's hard to see in there, but it is nice and clean. And so if you don't have a solvent tank, you can go on ahead and do something like this, and it'll help you get it cleaned up without having to do any kind of real major cleaning. Now, these forks are going to get a little bit more attention, but for changing the fork oil and servicing your forks, you can do a really good job with just a couple paper towels, a couple screwdrivers, something to turn it with, and you're all good. Get it all cleaned out, get everything as sanitary as you possibly can. And in this, what we're going to do, I'm going to take a little brake clean and put it down in there, but first I'll do the other fork. Get another clean paper towel, do the same thing again. Grab this, jam it down in there, and just give it a good turn. And these were some really crusty forks. I mean, most of the time you're not going to find them that bad. Push it back out. There's all the crud on it. And it's nice and clean in there, or fairly clean anyway. And get a little brake clean and see what we can do. And this is nothing more than O'Reilly's brake parts cleaner. It's good stuff, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's $3 and some odd cents a can, and it does a great job. It works great on carbs. It works great on pretty much everything. And it is just as clean and nice in there as you could possibly ask for. I don't know if you can see, but it is really nice in there. Same thing here. Get it all cleaned up. Straight out, and it is just, now we got some nice clean forks that we can internally that we can deal with. And this, and it helps clean out our pan. I like to keep my pans really clean because you never know, you may have to reuse something or something like that. So just go on ahead. That brake cleaner brings everything nice and clean. And if you've ever done forks before, old forks, there's something about them, but they smell terrible. The oil just is really nasty, and this will help get that out of there. So now, with what's been coming off of there, I've got it on a rag. Now I can go clean the outsides of these things using that brake cleaner, and we don't even waste any when we do this. We just get it all nice and clean in there. I'm going to do some more work on these. I'm going to have to sand these forks down, and we are going to polish them up so they look beautiful. This ugly, cheapo, painted version of them just doesn't cut it. We got to do better. But as you can see, and all this stuff is just so rusted and nasty. I had to beat the clamp off of this thing. It was just rust welded on. So now the next thing we want to do is we still have our fork tubes, and these fork tubes are not in terrible shape. They're not bent. They need maybe a little bit of steel wool to get a little bit of surface rust off of some of it, but for the most part they're in pretty good shape, and that's good. That makes life a little bit easier for us. We don't have to deal with everything being bad. And there's a little bit of surface rust at the very top, not where the forks actually travel, but close to the Now, so what you do with that is you just take a little bit of steel wool and all that stuff just disappears. It's just gone. It's not even in the fork. It's some sort of stuff that was on there, I guess. I don't know. But a little steel wool. And so now, the next thing we really need to do is we're going to deal with these forks. They are just, as you can see, they're in terrible shape. They've been abused, whatever, but I found the best way, which I've done a little bit right there, to bring these forks to life is with a little angle grinder and these removable pads. And the blue one is a little bit less harsh than the red one. But you can take this, and look how terrible this is, and it's going to make some noise, and the compressor is going to turn on, so it we'll just give you that demonstration. And this works really, really well for most aluminum parts. Now, what this does, there's a little bit of surface scratching on here, but that's nothing you can't take out with some fine sandpaper, and we can bring this thing to a really nice shine. And I'm not going to work that hard at it. It's just going to take me a little while to work through it. A little bit of 400. So we went from this, which is nasty fork silver paint, to this in just a few minutes. Is it perfect? No, it needs a little more work, but it just gets the point across. This is going to be a very nice looking fork. And it's only a few minutes with the proper tools. Nothing more than one of these little Scotch-Brite type pads on an angle grinder, and away we go. And we've got ourselves a pretty nice looking fork tube. Wipe it off. There's going to be a little bit more we have to do. We'll do some stuff with some Dremel and get into little tiny areas, but that is what we needed. We'll take a little bit of Autosol, or just some, just good aluminum polish. I like Autosol. I'll give these guys a once over real quick. And as you can see, that was just a little over an hour's work, and the fork tubes are beautiful. They'll get some more polishing, but they are ready to be put back together. The fork seals in this case are bidirectional. Sometimes there's only one side to the seal, but whenever you're installing something like this, there's lettering on top. Always go with the lettering on top. Now, as far as putting in the fork seals, you can use a socket and drive it in. There's a few ways to do it. In this particular case, I've got the proper seal driver, and all I do is just pound it in. Until you can see where the clip goes. And our clips right here, and you just snap them in, and that's all there is to it. Fork seals installed. Let's do the other one. This vise has got soft jaws on it. These will not harm anything. They're pretty solid. They're almost kind of they're not a hard plastic, but they're kind of rubbery hard plastic. Same thing here. Get it started with a hammer. I always use a soft mallet, so I don't want to hurt anything. And they go right in straight if you do it right. Make sure we can get these guys in. Yep, they go in. And we can now install the clip. And it just clips into position. And we're done. So now, what we need to do is we can install our fork tube. And it's very, very simple operation. Just put the fork tube in. You slide it on in until it reaches the bottom. And we have our bolts all cleaned up. Clean them up a little more. And they're all clean and nice. And just give it a And the fork seals are installed. Now, here, yeah, they're fine. We'll put our disc cover on. And the other dust cover. And we have got a set of rebuilt forks. The only thing now that they need is a little bit of oil, and you just put the prescribed amount, you remove the cap, put in the prescribed amount, put the cap back on, and you're done. So now we're going to have to add some oil to this thing, and on these particular caps, they have a kind of a plunger type affair with a little clip instead of a cap that unscrews. But all what we need to do, and it's a little tricky with it being in the set of front forks, we need to pull that clip while I push down on this. So I'm going to push down and get that clip. Okay, now that we've got the plug out, which took quite a while, what we need to do is put some fork oil in this, and it's really relatively simple. We're going to be using something called a ratio right, and it has all sorts of graduations for ounces, cc's, and whatever. This particular fork calls for 165 cc's, so I put 165 cc's of fork oil in here. They usually want some between 5 and 20 weight. This is 15 weight, so we just pour it in. Make sure you've put your drain plugs back in and everything is tight. And there's nothing more to it than that. Just do your best to. Now it's kind of filling up as we go along. As you can see, I had to put the triple clamp on here to hold it while I was taking out that plug. It was not the simplest thing in the world to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to let that drain in there, which it's done. Then what we do is we're going to just let this thing, we're going to pump this thing up and down a couple times. And let that oil get down into the bottom. Because we're going to be putting a spring in, and it's going to try and take up some room. We don't want it coming out. Now, see, this has ended up being a little harder because we had to. It's not in the bike. If it was on the bike, you wouldn't have to fiddle around with this that much. But it is what it is, and so now it looks like we've got the fluid in there. Okay, now we're going to put in the spring, and it just goes in. And be very, very careful when you do this to see if it's going to come out the top, because it's displacing some of the oil that's in there, and we just don't want to make a mess. And what I did is I've mounted the triple clamp here so I can put a clamp on there to compress it. Normally you have something that unscrews, and it's much, much easier to deal with than this. This was just kind of a... Pull it up with this. Get it so it's a little less weirded out. Okay, there we go. And gently, we're just going to gently roll it in there, hopefully. And once it gets in there, I've cleaned it and cleaned around the O-ring and everything else. So now this guy can go in. Until it bottoms. And it bottoms right there, and it kind of holds it in place. And then we will find our little clip. And we can then snap it back in. Not a lot of fun, in this particular one, but it works. Clip is in. I can now move that, and we have got oil in our forks, and we are all set. We've got one oiled up, new seals, and a fork that's ready to go. Polished up these forks. They were painted, first they were painted black, then they were painted silver, but now we've got a very nice fork. That actually dampens. And we're good to go. Now all we have to do is repeat for the other fork, and they'll be done. Well, thanks for watching. We have successfully rebuilt our forks, put new seals in, and everything is in great shape. So we will see you next time. Please remember to subscribe. We're going to keep on giving you videos. The video quality will be improving as we go along, as I learn. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.